Streaming from the All Fiction Studios, this is Tracy Dickson bringing to you the Steger Classic Pulp Podcast, brought to you by StegerBooks.com, the purveyors of quality facsimiles and reprints of classic pulp magazines and story anthologies. You can find a promo code for an exclusive discount on StegerBooks.com in this episode's description. Please help us grow our audience by following our shows, telling your friends, and leaving us a comment. We'd appreciate it. Previously on the 50 Grand Brain, Daffy Dill tumbled onto a dilly of a story when he ducked into Bill Latham's hideaway club. It was there that he came across Gertie Dodge, who was trying to drink her troubles away. She was being framed for murder. When we last saw our intrepid reporter, his investigation had taken him to the Wagnall funeral parlors. Let's see if he's still there. Chapter 4.
Meanwhile, over by the silver casket, I was doing some heavy thinking. A possibility struck me, and I yipped loudly. Everyone looked at me as though I were crazy. Inspector Calloran sighed.
What's the brainstorm, Daffy?
Seems mighty queer, Chief, that 3 mugs would knock out Vance here and then not touch anything in the place. Unless Vance had enemies.
I have none.
Good. Then that means the 3 bad boys came here after something, knocked out Vance so's he wouldn't see what they were doing, and departed.
I don't get it.
Ever hear of body snatching? You know, grabbing a famous corpse, holding it for ransom under threats of maltreating it if the money were not paid?
Hot damn,
said Sammy.
Nuts. The casket's still here.
Open it and see if Woodruff is still inside of it. That's more to the point.
Hell, we can't go busting open caskets just to...
It's very simple to do, Inspector. I can remove the head cover in a second. I'll do it.
He went to the casket, and we all crowded around expectantly. Vance unscrewed 2 bolts near the head and heaved on the head plate covering the upper half of the casket. It came up heavily. He slowly lifted it off. Hey, it ain't Woodruff.
My God,
said Vance, and dropped the head plate to the floor, narrowly missing his own corns. I never felt a tighter sense of dread than I did in that room. All of us gaped at the casket. There was a corpse in it, but not Fern Woodruff. Not the angular, bearded outlines of the scientist's face. Instead, the body of a young girl reposed on the silks. There was a red welt around her neck, and I knew right off that this girl had committed suicide. She was dressed poorly, and her face was dirty, hair flowing awkwardly on her shoulders.
A body snatch. I ain't had one in the department in 6 years at least.
Me, I was putting 3 and 3 together and having them make 9. Somehow, although it was my own idea in the beginning, the body snatch was out. It looked to me as though the 3 Vegs had transplanted the girl in Woodruff's casket with the idea of having her buried in Woodruff's place. If that were done, they couldn't make a claim that they had the real body without an exhumation. It didn't click, you see. I began to piece it together a bit, too, and see how Charlie Morelli tied into the thing. Morelli, with his cheap undertaking establishment on Henry Street, wasn't it? Might have gotten hold of this girl's body after a suicide. Unidentified or secreted, Morelli could have held her for this job, to be transplanted in Woodruff's casket when the switch was pulled. But why had Morelli been bumped? I thought of the 50 grand job Gertie had spoken of. Morelli's cut was supposed to have been 10 grand. If Limpy Castle had engineered the Holocaust and Morelli were through being useful, Limpy's love of money would have prompted him to bump off Morelli, make Gertie take the rap, and thereby save himself and his angels $10,000. I'm going home. I've got to think. Sammy, you'd better phone your story in. Tell them to add it to the Gert Dodge story and give us both bylines on it. Tell them to hold both yarns open for another ad.
You got something?
He looked like a vulture on top of a tower of silence.
Listen, Daffy, don't play me dirty. If you got a lead...
Inspector, I'm clean, I swear. I've got an idea, but I've got to work it myself. I'll let your department in on the ending, if there is an ending. So wipe your face.
That's your word, Daffy. I'm letting you go on that.
I borrowed a sawbuck from Sammy. It was like lifting an elephant with one hand. and took a cab outside the Wagnall Parlors for my own hideout, a quartet of modest rooms on East 9th Street, for which, believe it or not, $44 of my hard-earned pay went out every month. There was a funny sort of quirk going around in my head all the way home. I kept trying to remember what it was Fern Woodruff had to do with me. Because he did have something to do with me. Sometime, somewhere in the past, I had hooked my fist into a fact about Woodruff which I thought would have made a good chunk of fiction. That was when I was young and foolish and thought that newspaper men actually wrote all the fiction they said they planned to write. I arrived at my spot, my memory still virginal as far as that quirk went. I paid the hack driver off with a part of Sammy's sawbuck and went upstairs. I went rummaging through my desk drawers as soon as I got in, looking for the damn fool notebook I used to keep, filled with news rag clippings which would have made story plots. Finally, I found it and went through it. Eureka! I slammed my knee hard. The clip was in it. That was worth a drink. I mixed a Ricky in the kitchen, brought it back to the desk, and slowly drank it as I read the clipping. It said, in effect, that the American Academy of something or other had paid Fern Woodruff $25,000 for his brain to be delivered to them upon his death and, after, of course, autopsy. But the clipping went further. This American Academy was taking no chances. They had insured Woodruff's brain with the Amalgamated Insurance Company for $100,000. How long ago this had happened was a mystery, since the clipping held no date. But I remembered that I had collected those ideas for plots sometime within the last 5 years. It didn't make any difference, really. Well, the whole setup was as plain as Bill Hanley's face right then and there. Limpy Castle, unless I was all wrong, had lifted Woodruff's corpse to get his fingers on that brain. Morelli had been double-crossed with Gert to take the neat rap. Then, after the whole thing was a boil, Limpy would demand $50,000 from the insurance company. Or else. The else, in this case, would be simply that he would destroy the brain and cause them a loss of twice $50,000, which they would have to pay to the American Academy which had insured the brain. Neat, but not gaudy, eh? You had to hand it to Castle. He saw swell possibilities in the mess, and he played his hand the moment Woodruff died, which, by the way, was a natural, from pneumonia. I saw the same possibilities years before, only I would have made 50 fish from the yarn, if I had ever written it, and Castle stood to make $50,000.
Chapter 5.
I finished the Ricky and picked up the telephone and called headquarters. Some grizzled old blowhard answered in a voice that sounded like the foghorn of the Berengaria at sea. Daffy Dill of the Chronicle wants to know if there has been any reports on the finding of a headless corpse in the last 2 hours.
No, but they will find one if you ask questions like that around. You're screwy.
It's a pleasure, I said, and hung up after giving him a prolonged and reverberating bird. I called the Chronicle office right away. Dinah Mason's honey voice dripped over the wire with her usual opening. Dinah, is there anyone finer?
Alas and alack. Are you in again?
Yet, you mean. Will you marry me?
No.
In that case, let's get down to business. Has anyone reported finding a headless corpse within the last 2 hours? I heard her gasp and mutter, "Damn," under her breath, with all the tautness and fervor of a veteran.
Daffy, are you a spiritualist?
Never mind the wisecracks. They found one then?
10 minutes ago, down on 14th Street in a blind alley. Body of a man, stark nude, head lopped off clumsily. Body dead for 2 days at least. It was embalmed. Scars, appendix, and double hernia operation. Description?
Skip it. You've told me all I had to know. Give me Brad for rewrite.
He's gone out for a sandwich. Let me take it, Daffy, please. Sammy just phoned in about the fight at the Wagnall Parlors. The old man is all excited. He's breaking down the first page. I want to do...
Okay. Did you telephone headquarters about the corpse?
Yes.
Then get this. That body was Fern Woodruff's. The corpse, which was in Woodruff's casket at Wagnall's, was taken from Morelli's undertaking spot earlier in the evening. Go light on that. I haven't checked yet.
I've got it.
I could hear the keys of her typewriter clacking merrily.
But give me the rest. Why the missing head? What's the motivation? Who did it? What kind of a newspaper man are you?
The door of my apartment closed behind me with a slam. I turned around, startled. Blackie Shane stood there. His face seemed to convey the impression that it was not a friendly call, and when I saw the gun in his hand, I knew it was not. Dinah, Blackie Shane just walked into my place without an invitation. There's an evil gleam in his eye and a .45 pistol in his mitt. Just thought you'd like to know in case he should get careless and give way to his feelings, which, plainly, are to bump me off.
Daffy, are you mad?
I'll call you back. I slid the receiver back on the hook. I turned around and looked at Blackie Shane. So Limpy's on the warpath. He had piggish eyes, and I didn't like them at all. He wasn't intelligent enough to realize that if anything happened to me now, Dinah would get him cold for first-degree murder. He might plug me and worry about that later. He stared at the telephone.
That won't help you.
That won't help you. I'm doing very well, thank you. But if I should suddenly develop a chronic case of bullet wound, then you are definitely on the ice, Blackie, if you get what I mean. So put away the shooting iron and parley. He sat down, but he didn't put the rod away. He kept fingering it nervously, training it on the pit of my stomach.
You're a nosy guy.
I get around. That's my job. Limpy doesn't like it, eh?
Not much, he doesn't. He sent me up to cook your goose.
What a pity. My ticker was slamming against my lungs and pounding blood through me so hard, I could feel a blue vein standing straight out on the left side of my temple. The muzzle of his rod looked like some dinosaur's mouth. I felt cramped, tight, and raw. I didn't like it. He looked at me for a long time, staring without saying a word. Silence beat on my ears like thunder. Well?
I don't know. I don't know what to do now.
He got to his feet and waved the pistol.
Get away from that phone.
I rose and walked across the room, wishing to hell there was a gun or bomb or something under the cushions on the sofa. But there wasn't, of course, and I sat down on them. He called a number, still holding the gun on me.
Limpy? I'm in Dill's apartment. He was on the phone when I got here, and he told that frill at the Chronicle that I was going to bump him. What do I do?
He listened to his boss for a few seconds, nodding. He looked pleased, and I felt worse at the sight of his expression.
Okay. That's swell, Limpy. I'll handle it.
He hung up and called the Chronicle office.
I want to speak to a doll named Dinah.
Apparently, Dinah was on the other end, for he went right on.
You know Joe Dill? Well, unless you go right away to 142 East 14th Street, he's going to be knocked off. Get it? And if you tell the cops or anyone else, we'll give him the slug anyway. Now step on it, sister, and...
I hurtled out of the sofa toward Shane. Dinah! But Blackie Shane had anticipated my rashness. He hung up and turned to me in a slow way. Just as I reached him, he clubbed me with the rod. I went out like a light and didn't come to until lots later. When I finally opened my eyes, my head was ringing with bells, and I saw I was in a car heading down Madison Avenue.
Easy does it.
Blackie jammed the pistol into my ribs. I was washed out at that moment. He didn't have to warn me. At 14th Street, he called the hack driver over to the curb, paid off, and then walked me down 14th, prodding me meaningly with the gun. And if you don't think he would have let me have it right there, if I had tried anything, you're crazy. Blackie certainly had a wrinkle in his brain. That's why Limpy used him as torpedo man. At 142, we went in and ascended the stairs until we reached the door of Limpy Castle's hideout. When I went in, I wondered if I ever would come out. Plainly, I wasn't supposed to, nor was Dinah once she reached it.
Chapter 6.
She was already there, I saw, talking to Limpy himself, a short man with a club foot. His face was gnarled with lines, but he had pleasant eyes just the same.
Hello, Daffy. Sorry to see you here.
Are you all right, Daffy?
Yeah, sure. I narrowed my eyes. Spill it, Limpy. What's the idea of pulling the kid in?
Just a precaution.
Limpy smiled. His face tightened with a soundless snap.
Now listen, Daffy. You've been poking your nose into the Morelli bump-off, and you've been playing hunches on the Wagnall fracas tonight. I don't like it, 'cause that happens to concern me. I want you to kill any story you've written which might cast some doubt as to whether Gert Dodge killed Morelli or not. Otherwise, I'll have Blackie and Dan Furman put the slug on both of you.
I'm killing no story. And lay off the girl. What's she got to do with it?
She knows Blackie came to your place. Tough, but if you go, she's got to go, or we don't cover ourselves. You ought to know that, Daffy. Better play ball.
And suppose that I'd play ball and then cross you.
Ever hear of Dynamite Thompson?
Who hasn't? I stalled, biting my lip thoughtfully. The Detroit babyface is big news.
If I should ever be crossed, Dynamite Thompson would fix up you and your doll very nicely. I've already wired him that you're in on our play.
I kept rubbing my nose. Dinah noticed it. She got up and wandered around the room aimlessly. She finally got behind Blackie, staring at the ceiling and wringing her hands as though she was unnerved.
Well, yes or no?
If he knew me, he would have realized that my rubbing my nose was a pretty good sign of no. Dinah realized it. I always do that just before a scrap. She anticipated me, and, son of a gun, if she hadn't gone and planted herself next to the light switch on the wall. Limpy, you can all go to hell! Dinah clicked out the light switch. At the same second, I heard Blackie Shane cry out. As I stepped back and tried to grab him to place a haymaker on his jaw, I felt him on the floor.
Get his gun! I tripped him!
I fell on him, pounding the back of his neck with my fists. I felt him go sort of limp and figured one of the rabbits had taken him, but he was still conscious. His right hand came up with the gun. I grabbed it and snapped a mean twist on it. Blackie emitted an awful scream and dropped the .45. I found it and yanked Blackie half up from the floor to cover me. Dan Furman was framed against the background of a window, which showed him up plainly. He kept calling, "Limpy? Limpy!"
Let him have it. To hell with Shane, the fool,
snarled Limpy. Orange flashes sliced the darkness, and the room was quickly filled with acrid smoke and roaring thunder. Slugs whined over my head. I was kneeling on the floor and slammed thuddingly into the plaster of the wall behind me. Dinah!
Nuts! I'm on the floor. Give it to them, Daffy.
Heartened that she was okay, I drew a bead on Dan Furman, who didn't know the window showed him up. I fired twice, and he buckled up like a folding chair and laid down. The .45 kicked hard in my hand, snapping back and hitting me on the side of the face. Limpy was in complete darkness. I saw his gun fire as he let loose at the flashes of my rod. One slug whizzed by my left ear like a big bee. The other hit Blackie Shane, whom I was using as a shield. That bullet had impetus because it knocked Shane back at me and nearly threw my body over backwards. I fired twice again at Limpy, but I must have missed. He came right back at me, blazing away for all hell. He was getting accurate, for he hit Shane again with both slugs. Shane was dead as hell. I could feel that as I clung to him. I heard Limpy's club foot pounding on the floor. He had stopped shooting. A door opened and closed. Dinah, he's taken a powder. Stay here. I went after him, gun swinging in my hand. I tore through the door, searching the other room in the darkness for some sign. It was as black as pitch, and I couldn't see a thing. And then the lights flashed on. It was Limpy who had turned them. He caught me unawares. I had a short glimpse of him, a revolver sticking out in his right hand, a black valise in his left. He fired at me. The bullet clipped me in the shoulder with a powerful blow, which spun me around and crashed me back against the door. I couldn't feel a thing. It was just like a punch. I lost my balance and started to fall. My mind still perfectly clear. I could see Limpy plain as day. There was a satisfied grin on his face, and his gun was raised for a final shot. Somehow I couldn't lift the .45 in my hand. Simultaneously, a chattering series of cracks rang out from outside of the room. The window pane was shattered into splinters as fistfuls of slugs zoomed into the room and caught Castle amidships, bunching together like a baseball. They socked him over on his heels and flat on his back like lightning. And after he hit, he never even twitched. I was sitting on the floor, feeling stupid, when I saw the stock of a Thompson submachine gun break through the rest of the jagged window pane and smash it down. A man finally squeezed through, still carrying the submachine gun. He stared at Limpy's corpse for a second, then glanced at me. It was Bill Hanley.
How you doing?
He asked with a grin. Papa, will you tell me how in the seven hells you happened to... Dinah Mason came in from the other room at that moment.
You all right, sweetheart?
I'm nicked. It can't be bad. It doesn't hurt.
Let me take a look.
He peeled off my coat and opened my shirt. I watched him with interest. There was a bullet crease on my left side, extending under my armpit. Close, but no cigar. It wasn't even bleeding, but it looked raw.
You're okay.
Hanley said after a few minutes. Thanks, Papa. Now, would you mind telling me...
Dinah called me after Castle called her. She's a smart girl, Daffy. Any other doll would have taken Castle at his word and kept her mouth shut. Then both of you would have been bumped. She's unorthodox. She actually asked the cops to cooperate.
I'll be damned. I glanced at Dinah. She was looking at Castle's hands.
I can't find it. Maybe we've made a mistake?
Woodruff's head? It's in the black bag.
No. Vance at Wagnall's said he bit his attacker's hand. None of these three men have any mark at all. And when Sammy phoned in, he said Vance said that blood was drawn. Look, there isn't a mark on Castle's paws, and none on Furman's and Shane's.
I winked as I put on my coat. You didn't know that Limpy was aiming to become an actor, Dinah.
I don't get you.
Grease paint. Limpy bought a stick of sallow grease paint at Gray's tonight, after he and his angels socked Vance at the Wagnall parlors.
Oh, he covered up the scar with grease paint and made the skin look natural. But which one of them has the scar?
Limpy. The other two have pinkish skin on their hands. Limpy is the sallow one. Rub his right paw and see. She rubbed, and the bite which Vance had inflicted stood out like a sore thumb. It was a mean thing, that bite. Vance had sure sunk his canines into Limpy. I got to my feet, feeling a little dizzy. Well, let's get to the office. We've got this yarn to write. It's past deadline for the first edition right now. Just think, I've saved somebody 50 grand. And I'll have to fight like hell with the old man over my dear old swindle sheet because I took a cab tonight. Ah, well.
Daffy, how'd you like to sort of put an O. Henry finish to that yarn in the Chronicle?
Papa's turned editor. I waved a reproving finger. But I'll take it. What's the finish?
Limpy was rooked just like you. When we told Mrs. Woodruff that her husband's body was taken, she gave us the story about the insured brain. That was what you were after, no?
Sure. It's safe and sound right in that black bag.
It's safe and sound, but not in the black bag. That's only Woodruff's head. You see, Vance removed the brain before he embalmed the body, according to instructions received from Mrs. Woodruff. It's at the academy that wanted it.
What the hell? Then why didn't Vance say so when I was there and save me a bullet wound?
'Cause you yourself said it was body snatch for ransom. He never thought they were trying to extort the holding, supposedly Woodruff's brain.
That's all right, lunatic.
Dinah patted my cheek.
You always mean well.
Well, when you read it in the Chronicle, it made a good story just the same, even if I didn't get a raise.
Tune in next time for another thrilling tale from the more than 30,000 yarns in the StegerBooks.com catalog. This is Tracy Dickson signing off for now. Thanks for listening.